Hi, Joe here again for Buzzby Bakes. Today I'm going to kick things off with a little request. Please subscribe to the channel. It'd be great to build up a community of bakers who are following these tutorials, who can help each other with tips and tricks, who can give me a bit of feedback and also send me a few requests. Today's video for fruit loaf has come from a request. So here we go. You're going to need 500 grams of strong white bread flour, 50 grams of caster sugar, 8 grams of instant yeast, 10 grams of salt. Then in a pan you'll need to melt 50 grams of unsalted butter, take that off the heat and then pour in 220 grams of whole milk. You'll also need 3 free-range eggs. That's going to make our sort of enriched dough. Then to that we'll be adding 100 grams of dried apricots. Chop them up into quarters, so if your apricots are like that, just cut them in 4. 100 grams of sultanas, zest of an orange, and then a teaspoon of cinnamon. If you don't like cinnamon, you can use vanilla, go down that sort of panettone route. You can use a vanilla pod, or this stuff I think is brilliant, vanilla paste, so a teaspoon of that, that'll be delicious. But I'm a big fan of cinnamon, so I'm going to go with the cinnamon. This will be enough to make 2 loaves. Afterwards we will ice one of them, which is really nice to have with a cup of tea in the afternoon, and the other one we'll leave plain so you can slice it up and toast it for breakfast. So let's get started. In our bowl we're going to need our 500 grams of strong white bread flour, the 50 grams of caster sugar or golden caster sugar, 8 grams of instant yeast, our 10 grams of salt, into the mixer. Put that on a low speed just to let that mix, and then we'll add our liquid. Okay, so now pour in your butter and milk mixture. And there goes. Just let that incorporate a bit, and then we'll add our eggs. Right, let's come together a bit. And it still hasn't made a dough, but we'll add our eggs. So now switch that on a 1 or 2 on your KitchenAid and leave that to mix for, I'd say, 10 minutes. Okay, that's been about 10 minutes. So again, like the enriched dough we did before, it's quite wet, so you can definitely mix that on a 2 or a 3. It's not going to stress the KitchenAid. So now we will add our fruit and our orange zest. So basically the zest of an orange. There we go. I like it quite orangey. Then our 100 grams of chopped apricots and our 100 grams of sultanas. Now you can soak these fruits. I soak these just in a bit of water just to plump them up a bit. But what's really nice is if you soak them in a bit of rum. So if you mix 50 grams of rum with 50 grams of water, soak your fruit in that overnight, then the next day drain off any excess liquid, but don't throw it away. Just reduce the amount of milk by the amount of liquid you've got, so your milk and soaking liquor still comes to 220 grams, and you can use that. It'll give it a lovely flavour. So there's our 100 grams of sultanas or raisins. I prefer sultanas. And then about a teaspoon of cinnamon, or like I say, a teaspoon of vanilla paste if you're going down the vanilla route. So I quite like cinnamon, so I'm going to put that in there. Now we'll turn this back on, mix it for another sort of 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so that's been about another 2 or 3 minutes, nicely incorporated. You can see we've got a nice silky, stretchy dough. The fruit's evenly distributed, so we'll just take that off the dough hook. There we go. That smells delicious already. Really nice. Just use your dough scraper just to scrape the edges down, get it into a bit of a ball. There we go. And then cover with a tea towel for room temperature for an hour, and then you can put that in the fridge like the enriched dough for another hour or even overnight, and that's just going to allow the flavour to develop, and it will just make the dough a lot easier to work with when we shape it. Okay, we're back. Now I haven't had a little diva moment and nipped off for a quick costume change. It's actually the next day. I ran out of time yesterday to complete the recipe, so I had to put my dough in the fridge overnight. Now this is a good thing actually, because it's going to show you how you can manipulate the bread making process to fit around your schedule. If you do run out of time, just remember the fridge is your friend. Just cover your dough with some cling film, and you can put that in the fridge for probably up to a day, maybe even more. This has been in there 19 hours. If it was a standard dough, and when I'm ready to carry on, I'd get it out of the fridge, leave it for half an hour, just to warm up again. But as it's an enriched dough, we'll use it straight from the fridge, so it's still firm and easier to shape before it gets too sticky. So we're going to divide this in two. You could freeform these loaves and put them on a baking tray, but I like to use Victoria sponge tins actually, just lined with a bit of baking parchment, not greaseproof paper, baking parchment. It gives that sort of panettone vibe where you'll get the sort of shape from the tin and it'll look very nice. As you can see, even though this has been in the fridge for 19 hours, it's puffed up really nicely. We've got some good yeast action in there. That's really going to taste good now. So we need a bit of flour on our worktop, and as always, scrape the dough out. Try not to tear it up too much. There we go. Get all those bits out. Lovely. So if you remember yesterday, that was quite a wet, sticky dough, but now it's been in the fridge. The butter's firmed up, the dough's firmed up, and now it's a bit easier to work with. So first thing, we'll just divide it in two. Don't have to be too accurate, but something like that. I wouldn't bother weighing them. So again, touch more flour, and then just quickly shape these into a round. So flatten them out, just using the tips of your fingers, and then you're pulling in the sides into the middle. Keep pulling them in, stretching in, stretching in, stretching in, turn it over, and now just keep moving it around in a circle. There we go, onto a bit of fresh flour. Push that down a bit, nice and smooth. You can still, you've got the lumps from the apricots and raisins. If you've got any raisins or fruits actually bursting through, probably just flick them off, otherwise they're going to burn in the oven. In there, we'll do the same with the other one. Tucking your fingers underneath just to keep pushing that, building tension up on the outside. Little squeeze, that raisin's popped through, so let's take that one out. There we go. And that's it, nice smooth surface. Like we say, we've got that kind of skin, so when it proves up we should get a nice round top to our loaves. In there. Now because they are cold, I would let these proof for about an hour before we bake them, so join me back then. Okay, these have been proving for about an hour, so I thought I'd just show you what they look like before I put them in the oven. Puffed up quite a lot. We're not touching the edge of the tins, but that's fine, they're going to expand in the oven, and even if they don't, it's not a problem. This one still looks quite knobbly because of the fruit, but again, as it puffs up, it's going to look lovely. So we'll bake these 180 degrees for about 25 minutes. I often find that recipes for enriched dough and brioche, they often say to set the oven around 200, which for me I just find too high. It gets black on top before it's fully cooked through, so I tend to just go around 180, a slightly slower bake, and I'll show you how these come out. Okay, there we go then, baked and cooled. So baked for 25 minutes at 180 degrees. Not too dark, but nice brown, and underneath looks like a giant tea cake really. Smells delicious. We'll leave this one plain with the nice smooth top. This one was the slightly knobbly one because of the fruit. So we'll ice that one. So in here 100 grams of icing sugar. To that I'm going to add the zest of a lemon. There we go. And then our orange that we zested to go into the tea cakes, fruit loaf, we'll use that to make our icing. There we go. So you get the lemon and the orange. And you want it quite thick. You don't want it too thick that it's peaking and you have to spread it out, but then you don't want it too thin that it's going to just be all dribbling off of the loaf. So something like that. There we go, and then just pour that on. Start in the middle, spread it round. There you go. I mean, it will dribble off down the edges, but that's fine. All looks nice, homely, rustic. Smidge more there. And that's it, there we go. We've got our 2 fruit loaves. That one, slice it up, toast it for breakfast, delicious. That one, have it with a cup of tea. And there you go. So, like I say, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, do leave a comment, any requests, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!